Hi, joining me today is Dominic John, VP of Industry and Marketing, OSIsoft, who will be discussing OSIsoft's data-based infrastructure technology. Hi, Dominic.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
We saw continued global economic improvement in 2014. Was OSIsoft able to leverage the growth? And if so, what were some of the success stories this past year?
Yeah, absolutely. 2014 was a great year. We saw a lot of investment by our customers, and I'd say really in two perspectives. The first perspective was really people moving more strategically to investing in what we call enterprise agreements. People that really seeing a data infrastructure, a single infrastructure for managing sensor-based data that connects people. So versus doing individual tactical rollouts, they're now thinking about strategically putting it across the whole organization. So we saw a lot of investment there. The second perspective really was around our OEM. We do a lot of OEM partnerships where we have third parties who build applications on top of our core technology. So we saw a large increase in customers investing in their technology, which reflected in ours. So 2014 was a great year for OSIsoft.
What are some of the key initiatives that further improve your value proposition to customers in 2015?
It's a good question. So I'd really put this on two fronts. One would be more from a sort of a business operations level. Second, maybe from a technology. So from the business perspective, we're in a world where we're all in a supply chain. There's multiple different distributors, people that feed business, feed the manufacturing environment, with large, expensive assets, for instance. One of the offerings that we have for 2015 is what we call connected services. It allows partners of the process and discrete manufacturers to really monitor the assets of the industry and then provide guidance, whether that's your asset's about to fail or it's overused or it needs maintaining, so they can improve the quality of service. So really, the help there is, really making sure that the quality of service is improved for those customers who are using the assets from third parties. The second is really technology. OSIsoft's been in the business of really delivering real-time insights from sensor-based data. From that perspective, I like to look at it beyond real time. We also provide historical. This year, we will extend our product line to include what we're calling future data, or more specifically, predictive information. So if you're reaching out to big data analytics or analytics engines and being able to predict from the historical data what's going to happen, we can actually feed that back into our system. So no longer do you just look at real-time insights, you'll have historical insights and predictive insights to everyone in your operations environment. So we see that as a real game changer for the industry here.
So could you just tell us also about your OSI's partnership with ESRI and what it means to your clients?
Absolutely. We have a fantastic relationship with ESRI. It started a couple of years back, and last year we delivered the first out-of-the-box integration with our GIS, ArcGIS from ESRI. And there's been a huge amount of uptake. Just for instance, last week we had a webinar. There was over 1,600 people interested. But it's really the simplicity of what's being offered here. It's the combination of putting the time series data that we serve up along with the geospatial information. And when we look at some of the customer use cases, it's incredible the value that brings, just bringing an extra dimension to the decision making. So example, Dong Energy, they presented a few months back, but they have wind turbines out in the North Sea. They break and they need to get very expensive engineers to go visit those to fix them. But when they get to the wind turbine, a simple thing such as a 6-foot wave can prevent them getting on. So we want to know which wind turbine's broken and where it is. That's the ArcGIS combination. And then is the actual wave height under 6 foot. And that information is being delivered through our system. So from that perspective, very simple, they turned around and said, by being able to get engineers more rapidly knowing where they are and what's broken, and the fact that it's safe to get on that structure, they estimate 20 million euros of savings a year from that perspective. So really simple case, great value delivered by that out-of-the-box integration.
Most manufacturers and processors today are seeking big data analytics to sort through the endless amounts of data and convert it into actionable intelligence. What types of big data analytics is OSI offering?
That's great. So we're a real enabler of big data analytics. We've had a lot of requests from it. Certainly the oil and gas utilities are highly interested right now. From our perspective, we're about to release some capabilities that I'd support big data in two ways. We provide the time series data. We can serve that to the big data engines. The first area really is just some of the de factos out there. Hadoop is very common, HANA in our customer base from SAP as well, and being able to rapidly move data into those environments. In addition, people also like to feed the big data from SQL Server or Oracle databases. So there will be connectors that allow that movement of the data, the time series data from our environment directly to those tools. I think very, very importantly, what we found in the feedback here is OSIsoft's data infrastructure really acts in an infrastructure across the organization as a single a system of record, or one version of the truth would be more accurate. And from that perspective, one of the capabilities we're offering here is not just being able to push data to the analytics engine, but return the results back and add another layer of meta layer data of the analysis back on top of the single version of the truth. So we create that central repository for further insight and decisions.
Yeah, I think that's important. So what are you doing to address the industrial Internet of Things, and how do you think it's affecting your clients?
It's a great question. Absolutely, it's happening. It's a question of when will it take off. Right now, we're working with some major device manufacturers, internet companies to prototype and investigate. And there's a few customers. We did a press release with the Port of San Diego recently. So we are investigating it. From the customer's perspective, I've got an interesting perspective, and it's maybe a little bit controversial. If I look at basic data management practices, best practices, I think IoT might actually set us back 5 or 10 years, and I'll explain to this perspective. If you look at the fundamentals of IoT, getting sensor-based data into a cloud analytics environment, and it's becoming cheaper with these lick-and-stick sensors and the device gateways to sort of push data up, we're going to find an explosion of data moving up into multiple clouds through multiple protocols. If you roll back 10, 20 years, this was the fundamental IT data management problem. It was data everywhere in multiple different silos that weren't connected. So from our perspective, we see that this could create some complexity to our customer base, because now you've got even more silos of data that need to be integrated, brought into that single system or version of the truth. So at the same time, we think it's a great opportunity for us as a single data infrastructure. By being able to connect to the interfaces on the devices and streaming that data, we can help manage that data, or moving data from the Azure cloud or Google cloud that came from sensor-based data streams. So it's going to be an interesting next 5 to 10 years.
Manufacturers and processors are increasingly relying on their suppliers to help keep their plants running smoothly. So they're doing this through enhanced services. So what is OSI doing to address services?
So that's a really good question. I mean, the ultimate is we offer now something called a connected service. This allows our third-party vendors who are serving our customers, for instance, to distribute their assets. It could be a big expensive truck, it could be a drill head, it could be a transformer, and drop that into their customer base. And through our infrastructure system, we can provide an environment that will remotely monitor that. Now, from the actual supplier of that service, they get real-time insight into what's happening to that asset. They can look at all their dashboards and say, that asset's about to fail, that asset's overutilized, maybe they need another one. So it's a great business opportunity. I actually think it's transformative. It's a competitive differentiator, but also helps improve the quality of service when you're selling those goods into those manufacturing organizations.
So what do you see as the biggest global economic tailwinds that will help your business going forward?
I think probably the biggest aspect, I think, is really just the ongoing globalization of manufacturing and outsourcing. If you start looking at everyone's putting different manufacturing sites throughout the world to meet demand, they're taking advantage of cheap labor and resources. What that does is really distribute your data throughout the world. And from our position as a single data infrastructure that can sit across an enterprise across the world, we have the opportunity to really connect those sources of information. And so from my perspective, from an OSIsoft perspective, I see a great opportunity to really support that trend of outsourcing and globalization, but also improve the ability for people to access that data, make decisions, whether it's regulatory, whether it's safety, whether it's process efficiency. The holy grail here is to be able to look at 10 facilities and say, what's the golden batch? What was the ideal situation, and what were they doing? But with the data being fed, centrally accessible and available to, for instance, big data analytics, you can start drawing novel insights from those global trends that are happening.
Thank you, Dominic. That was quite interesting.
You're welcome.
That was Dominic John, VP of Industry and Marketing, OSIsoft. Thank you for viewing.